Hey, I'm Julian Mesri. I'm a writer, director, and sound designer. I was also the literary intern for New York Theater Workshop in 2010 and 2011. And I'm here with John Collins, the artistic director of Elevator Repair Service. Right now, they're working on their very last part of this trilogy, I would say, based on great works of literature by American writers in the 20th century. The first play was Gats. And Gats, of course, had a production at the Public Theater last year. ERS has been in residency at the workshop, and they presented Sound and the Fury, which was the second part of their trilogy. And now they're coming back to present The Select, which is based on The Sun Also Rises. So I guess the first question I have is that when we talk about it being a trilogy, right? So it comes as, there's a sort of trajectory that happens with Gats, and then Sound of the Fury, and then Sun Also Rises. And something that's made your work very unique is that you really work with the text itself. You don't write an adaptation, you really, in some cases, read the entire play or read parts of the play. So I'm interested in the sense, what led you to choose Hemingway in this piece as a summation of your series?
Well, it wasn't a premeditated trilogy. It was, Gats was a big experiment for us. We hadn't really done much work at all with literature before. And we certainly had never done anything like that, where we forced ourselves to use only the text from the novel. So that that took a long time, and in the end, it was a big moment for the company because it got us a lot more attention, and so that Gats transformed a lot of things for us. But one of the things that it did was that it made me think a little differently about literature as material for stage. And so when thinking of what to do next after that, we decided to do another novel because I was bitten by a little bit of a bug. But it needed to be something very different.
Right.
It needed to be something, because doing the same thing twice even made me really nervous. Still makes me nervous. Because for us, we're always at our best when we're a little bit lost and confused.
Right.
When we're trying to figure out something new, or trying to push ourselves into some new territory. So we said, okay, we'll do another novel, but it's got to be, it's got to give us a very different challenge, which, of course, The Sound of the Fury did.
Right.
It's a very different narrative style. It wasn't until we were finishing that up that I thought, well, maybe we really should make this a trilogy, or make another piece that will make a kind of larger work out of all three. And I think it was Scott Shepard, one of the actors in the company who I went to, and I just kind of threw the question at him. I was like, okay, well, we're going to do one more. If you draw a line through Faulkner and Fitzgerald, where does it point? And he said, Hemingway.
Huh.
So you have to do Hemingway. There's, it was, right, that's right. That's a kind of, I mean, obviously we ended up focusing on, three white American men, and we did consider at one point, we really, when we were looking at Southern literature, we thought about doing Flannery O'Connor. We went with Hemingway just because of that sort of simple, dumb logic, and didn't know which book we were going to do. Just started reading some, and in fact, it was in this room that we read The Sun Also Rises, and I have this very clear memory, this image burned in my head of sitting around these tables and just loving the sound of that dialogue coming out of the ERS actors. It really just sounded like they were, it sounded like the kind of, exchanges and banter that they have amongst themselves, when we're in between rehearsing things. And just something about it felt really right. It was hilarious and sharp and deeply sad, but sophisticated and subtle in a way that the other two hadn't been.
And so, it's interesting that you said that, because you talked about how you go from Guts to Sound of the Fury. You want to try something completely different. But I think how does your tactics for dealing with literature as text then change? Because it seems that there were very different approaches between Guts and Sound of the Fury, and I'm sure that the Select also has.
Well, the Select in a way is a more radical departure for us tactic-wise. It's kind of in some ways it's more conventional. We are still insisting on only using the words of the author, but we're not using all of them this time.
Right.
I think what we wanted to, that first reading that we had, I got such a strong feeling for the dialogue, and Hemingway also presented us with these long, descriptive passages.
Yeah.
Just reading it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, for a little while, I thought of as might be an interesting problem to solve theatrically. But what I got more interested in was trying out a very different approach than our last two. With this Sound of the Fury, we had done virtually every word of the first chapter, or we dropped a little bit of it. Gats, we did everything, the entire book, beginning to end. This did not seem to call for either of those strategies. This seemed to really want to be pared down, and that was a scary decision to make, because I've spent so much time talking about Gats and talking about the purity and the kind of reverence we have for that writing, and I don't think we have any less reverence for this writing, but we're still translating into a different medium, and so this was going to be an opportunity to actually try adapting something, actually try editing something down into a more or less reasonable length.
It's interesting you said that, just because it's kind of Hemingway-esque what you're doing, in the sense of like paring things down to what they're most essential. As a director, we're always around text and learning how to work with text. And you learn something from doing classics theater, you learn something from doing contemporary theater. And your experience has been sort of unique, because not a lot of directors have just taken on literature. How do you think it's changed the way you work with text? Has it opened up your?
It definitely has opened me up to text in a way. I mean, even though I think most people who know of us now know of us because of this work with literature, that's not where we come from.
Right.
Where we come from is, working with found text and improvised or paraphrased or non-verbal text, which for me that was always what I was interested in theater. I didn't want theater to be about writing. I wanted to do theater that was about action and theater that was about things happening. And so I for a long time I just bypassed writing in a way. Not that all of our shows were non-verbal, but they were many of them were experiments in working with language that we had found or came up with in some other way. So doing The Great Gatsby was the first time we really taken on a text where it was going to be about the text.
Right.
And it was hugely important. That's part of the reason we did do a trilogy, because I think I had been holding off working with text in a certain way for so long, but I just, I had.
Well, you went straight for you didn't even, just went straight for the
three in a row.
novels.
Right. But it's great, because the novels are still, they still require translating. They still require us to figure out, okay, this is a novel, it's not a play. We have to sort out how this becomes a play, how this becomes a performance. If not a play, how does it become a performance? And so I think that's why I like the novels so much. They were still wrong. They still didn't make sense for theater. They still presented us with all kinds of problems we had to solve. But I did finally get to really sink my teeth into some great writing.